Disposal of public lands is a one-way street. Once we lose them, we never get them back.
A political fight is playing out in D.C. and spreading across the West as some Republican congressmen propose selling hundreds of thousands of acres of public land. Earlier this month, the House Natural Resources Committee quickly introduced and passed an amendment authorizing 500,000 acres of federal land in Nevada and Utah to be sold or transferred to local governments or private companies. The legislation is part of Congress's budget reconciliation bill, what President Trump calls the One Big Beautiful Bill, containing sweeping tax and spending cuts. Reconciliation is a fast-track process Congress uses to make changes to laws to match spending, revenue, and the debt limit with budget goals that they've already agreed on. The reconciliation bill does have to pass through the House Rules Committee before making it to the House floor. The committee plans to meet tonight at 11 p.m. Mountain Time, 1 a.m. Eastern. But the public lands provision out of that Natural Resources Committee ignited major blowback. Many lawmakers and conservationists are strongly opposed to taking public lands out of public hands, and they worry this would open the door for the same thing to happen here in Idaho.
There's nowhere else in the world outside of America and on public lands that we can enjoy this sort of thing. All right, buddy, come on.
In the West,
Come on, buddy.
public lands are vital for recreation,
Good boy, good boy.
conservation, wildlife.
This is important to our culture. It's important to our economy. It's important to our entire way of life. And we don't want to lose it. Public land is a renewable resource. Our economy makes profits from this land every single year. Come on, buddy. Good boy.
Idaho Wildlife Federation Executive Director Nick Fasciano says public lands in the U.S. belong to us,
Good puppy.
the American people. Idaho ranks in the top 4 states in the country when it comes to the amount of public land, with over 60% of the state made up of federal public land.
Public land in America is the largest source of undistributed wealth probably in the world.
But not all Americans are happy with how our landlords have been managing those lands in recent decades.
I think the argument is that, the federal government isn't always the best at managing land, right? That, we're cutting employees. The Bureau of Land Management is losing employees. The Forest Service is losing employees. Maybe it's better to just sell the land, allow private interests to come in, develop it, mine it, do whatever they're going to do.
Now, as President Trump tasked Congress with making and saving the government money, there's a renewed push to transfer federal lands to states' hands or sell them off.
This amendment deals with the sale of public land in Nevada and Utah.
Through the budget reconciliation process this month, Republicans in the House Natural Resources Committee added a provision to their legislation in the 11th hour to include the sale or transfer of about 460,000 acres of federal lands in Nevada and Utah. That's not a lot of land in those states. Nevada and Utah have the highest percentage of federal land within their borders of anywhere in the U.S.
The net impact will be to reduce the federal debt and deficit, and the impact will be to 1/3% of the federal land in the state.
Representatives behind the proposal say the parcels would be used for infrastructure projects, mining, economic development, and affordable housing.
Nevada population centers are all encumbered by federal land that can't meet their housing and development needs without disposal of federal land.
This provision identifies specific lands where we can generate revenue in locations that are appropriate, that will also generate a strong financial yield to the Treasury due to local growth, and will do so while serving community public purposes by selling targeted parcels for fair market value to local government entities for infrastructure needs.
Idaho Congressman Russ Fulcher is on that committee and signed off on the bill. In a statement to KTVB, he said in part, quote, "We need more local management, not less." While he says he supports public lands in public hands, Fulcher doesn't support, quote, Idaho's lands in the hands of a D.C.-based landlord 3,000 miles away. Currently, with a growing $100+ billion backlog of unaddressed needs on our federally managed lands, ranging from forest management to wildfire prevention and infrastructure maintenance.
I understand where they're coming from.
Meantime,
I just happen to disagree with them.
Idaho Congressman Mike Simpson doesn't want to see all this public land transferred to states or sold off to private companies this way.
We complain about the land managers, but whoever managed them would probably still complain about it.
Simpson points to congressional research showing states like Idaho can't afford to manage all the federal land within their borders.
The state would end up selling off some of those public lands in order to maintain the revenue that they would have. That means that they would be selling off parcels of land that are the most important that give us access to those public lands, and that's a concern to me. We have a responsibility to make sure that future generations can enjoy these lands the way that we have, and that's why we maintain them.
So if you view federal land as like an asset, right? I mean, the president is a former real estate mogul and very successful one at that. So he sees things like that this is, let's take advantage of the assets the United States has. And one way to do that would be to sell it.
Environmental attorney Jeff Biebart says land transfers and sales of federal lands have happened since the 1800s.
It's literally a checkerboard of property.
And it might make sense for the feds to get rid of these specific parcels in Nevada and Utah.
You may look at it and say, look, it's a good thing that we're allowing a small city in Nevada to build an airport. You may look at another instance in Utah and say, no, we don't want there to be private development right up next to a park, for example.
It could theoretically make sense for some parcels or maybe even all of them, but that ought to go through the standard process through Congress, which requires public input and where people are actually understanding what they're voting for.
Ultimately, Fasciano and Simpson fear selling the land through the budget reconciliation process sets a bad precedent.
I think it would be a slippery slope.
And could pave the way for the same thing to happen in Idaho.
There are other ways to raise the revenue through elimination of waste, fraud, and abuse, and reorganizing some programs and those types of things.
Everybody, I mean, as an Idahoan, even though these lands are in Utah and Nevada, it scares me to see lands disposed of this way, because if that can happen there, which by and large, from what we've seen so far, the public is not supportive of, who's a good boy? It could happen to us too.
Again, the House Rules Committee plans to meet tonight at 11 p.m. our time, 1 a.m. Eastern. Representative Simpson and other lawmakers, like Representative Ryan Zinke from Montana, want the Public Lands Amendment stripped during that meeting. Again, the full House wants to vote on the full budget reconciliation bill before Memorial Day. Representative Zinke proposed the Public Lands in Public Hands Act at the beginning of session. We've covered that here on KTVB. Simpson signed off as a co-sponsor. Here's what he says it does.
It would ban the wholesale sale of public lands without specific authorizations and in limited amounts. If it was going to be a wholesale, or if somebody was going to try to sell 100,000 acres or something like that, there would have to be a bill go through Congress to do it. Couldn't be done through administration or any other way. It'd have to be through Congress.
Simpson and Zinke are also part of the newly formed Bipartisan Public Lands Caucus, which launched earlier this month. The group says they're focused on conserving America's public lands and expanding access for all Americans. We know there is so much more to cover about the fight over public lands in the West, and we will dive deeper into this issue in future stories.